Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Hong Kong's major banks have raised their best lending rate, adding to the burden of home buyers. Hong Kong swelters through its hottest July day as severe Typhoon Doksuri edges closer to the mainland. And more than 1,000 alumni of the Chinese university slammed 3 lawmakers over an overhaul of the institution's governing council. Hong Kong's major lenders, including HSBC, have raised their prime interest rate by 12.5 basis points. Their move came after the Hong Kong Monetary Authority raised its base rate by 25 basis points, in lockstep with the U.S. Federal Reserve. Chloe Fong reports.
HSBC led the latest round of interest rate increases, raising its prime lending rate by 12.5 basis points to 5.875% starting tomorrow. Bank of China Hong Kong, Hang Seng Bank and Standard Chartered followed suit, raising their rates by the same amount. The adjustments, which could affect some $1.8 trillion of outstanding loans in Hong Kong, came after the Hong Kong Monetary Authority lifted its base rate by 25 basis points, in tandem with the U.S. Federal Reserve, sending money costs to a 16-year high at 5.75%. The 1-month HIBOR, or Hong Kong's interbank offered rate that is linked to local mortgages, surged to a 15-year high of 5.24% yesterday, adding to the burdens to home buyers.
對於銀行借貸利率嗰個波動係必須要有所準備啦。
The Monetary Authority's acting chief executive, Raymond Yeung, warned the public to be mindful of interest rate movements when purchasing properties, taking out mortgages or loans, especially long-term ones. He said local interest rates may remain high for a period of time because of high U.S. inflation. But he assured that higher rates will not hurt Hong Kong's economic recovery or affect bad debt levels. Overnight, the U.S. Federal Reserve raised its target rate for the 11th time in 17 months. A 25 basis point increase took it to a 22-year high in the range of 5.25 to 5.5%. Chairman Jerome Powell said higher rates are helping to curb inflation, but hinted that rate cuts may not come soon as there's still a long way to go before inflation falls to the Fed's 2% target.
We'd be comfortable cutting rates when we're comfortable cutting rates, and that won't be this year, I don't think. It would be...
Powell refused to be drawn on whether the Fed will raise rates again in September. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's home prices have dropped for the second consecutive month, following a strong rebound earlier this year. The official price index stood at 349 in June, 0.5% lower than in the previous month, when it fell 0.9%. Home prices for the first 6 months gained 4.3%. Most of the advance came in February, when the city reopened its border with the mainland, pushing prices 2.5% higher. But the rebound was short-lived, and prices in June were still 8.6% lower than a year earlier. Analysts expect the market to remain weak in the second half of the year as interest rates stay high. Hong Kong sizzled through the hottest July day on record, with temperatures reaching 38 degrees in northern districts. But as severe Typhoon Doksuri edges closer to the mainland, showers are expected tomorrow. With people flocking to shopping malls to seek shelter from the punishing heat, spare a thought for outdoor workers who just endured the hottest July day ever recorded by the observatory. At 1 p.m., the temperature stood at 36.1 degrees at its headquarters in Tsim Sha Tsui. But it was hotter in inland areas such as Yuen Long and Sheung Shui, where the mercury exceeded 38 degrees. Relief is on the way, braced for showers tomorrow, when severe Typhoon Doksuri is expected to make landfall in Fujian. The standby signal number 1 will remain in force overnight, but a higher signal is unlikely.
Severe Typhoon Doksuri is forecast to move northwest or northwest-west in the general direction of coastal areas of southern Fujian and eastern Guangdong. According to the present forecast, Doksuri will be closest to Hong Kong tomorrow morning, skirting at around 400 kilometers to the east of the territory.
Doksuri, meaning eagle in Korean, has brought extensive damage to Taiwan after scraping past the southern part of the island. In eastern Hualien County, a 50-year-old woman died after she was washed away by flash floods. There were multiple reports of mudslides as authorities urged motorists to stay away from roads in hilly regions. Across the strait in Fujian, coastal regions are told to make preparations as winds gradually picked up. Earlier, Doksuri battered the northern Philippines, killing at least 6 people and making thousands homeless as houses were washed away. There are also fears that at least 30 people may have been killed when a boat capsized in a lake in Rizal province east of Manila. Back in the city, 2 more people have been arrested by National Security Police on suspicion of aiding fugitive activist Nathan Law. It is understood they are Demosistol members Chan Kok Hin and Lily Wong. Police confirmed that 2 29-year-old suspects were taken away this morning. The pair are accused of conspiracy to collude with foreign forces and sedition. 5 other members of the disbanded student group were arrested earlier this month, but have since been granted bail. They allegedly funneled money to Law, although the exiled activist rejected such claims. Hundreds of Chinese university alumni and staff have signed a petition in support of a counter-proposal to reform the institution's governing council. The petitioners criticized 3 lawmakers who bypassed the body and submitted their plan to the Legislative Council. Maisie Mock reports.
Over 1,300 Chinese university alumni and staff have signed a petition in protest against 3 lawmakers for bypassing the institution's governing body and submitting their revamped proposals to the Legislative Council. 3 Chinese-language newspapers published the names of those who signed the protest letter. They included Nicholas Kwan, deputy head of the Chief Executive's Policy Unit, Lingnan University President Leonard Zhang, and Government Pandemic Advisor David Ho. The alumni have their own proposal. This includes reducing the number of lawmakers' seats in the University Council from 3 to 2. The alumni also suggested that candidates for university president and provost must be approved by 2/3 of council members instead of half. Anders Lam, a co-organizer of the petition, said university council members should be the ones to formulate ideas on reform and submit them to LegCo. He said it came as a shock to learn that lawmakers Tommy Zheng, Bill Tang, and Edward Lau submitted a private bill for the revamp. Lam hopes lawmakers on the bill committee will suspend their meeting tomorrow and wait until the University Council meets next Wednesday. Charles Leung, chairman of the university's New Asia College, supported the 3 lawmakers' proposal, saying the existing council is not best suited to monitor senior management. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Hong Kong citizens can stay in Malaysia for up to 90 days visa-free per visit from June 28th. That is up from the 30 days currently granted to holders of the SAR passport. The extension was announced by Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who met Chief Executive John Lee on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur this afternoon. Anwar said the move will improve business and tourism ties between the 2 regions. In exchange, Lee said Hong Kong will consider setting up an economic and trade office in the Malaysian capital. The SAR leader is on the last leg of a week-long Southeast Asian tour and will return on Saturday. Overseas, vets in Western Australia have euthanized about 50 whales who returned to shore after rescuers tried to push them back to sea.
We did see them start to drift back into shore despite some pretty solid efforts by the whole team, using boats and kayaks as well as swimmers to try and send them out to sea. As they started to restrand, we were just assessing them one by one, and it was very clear that each animal was suffering or beginning to suffer, and as time went on, they were definitely getting worse and appearing worse on the beach.
About 100 pilot whales were stranded on the beach on the southern coast of Western Australia earlier this week. Around half of them died. Efforts were made to push the rest to sea, but they beached themselves again. U.S. President Joe Biden's son has pleaded not guilty to tax offenses after an agreement with federal prosecutors fell through. The judge expressed concern that the original plea deal could protect Hunter Biden from future prosecution. OConnor reports.
Hunter Biden left a courthouse in the American city of Wilmington after pleading not guilty to charges of failing to pay more than $100,000 in taxes in 2017 and 2018. The son of President Joe Biden initially had a plea deal with federal prosecutors for a 2-year probation. But Judge Maryellen Noreika, who was appointed by Joe Biden's predecessor and possible presidential challenger next year, Donald Trump, nipped the plea deal in the bud. She effectively placed on hold the agreement under which Hunter Biden would enter a guilty plea on the tax charges and admit to gun charges. Noreika was concerned that the original deal would protect the 53-year-old from future prosecution. As a result, a messy political affair just got more complicated. Republicans labeled the earlier agreement a sweetheart deal, which no ordinary citizen would get. The plea deal was aimed at ending a wider 5-year-long investigation into Biden's business dealings abroad when his father was vice president. Noreika gave the two sides 30 days to report back on where they stand. The White House has refused to comment. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
Irish singer and activist Sinead OConnor has died at the age of 56. O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You topped the world charts in 1990. But her personal struggles and provocative actions gained as much publicity as her expressive music, with the strong cultural and political stances sometimes overshadowing her musical talent. O'Connor converted to Islam 5 years ago, but continued to perform under her birth name. Her family did not disclose the cause of the death or where she died. The Hong Kong stock market rebounded today on optimism that the U.S. Federal Reserve will stop raising interest rates. The Hang Seng Index rose 1.4%, with the electric vehicle makers leading the rally. XPeng Motors surged almost 34% after Germany's Volkswagen decided to buy a 5% stake in the company. Other EV firms also advanced, with NIO jumping 13.4%, and Geely Auto gaining 8.6%. The roulette wheels did not spin at the same speed as the four-wheelers, but Sands China climbed 5.5% and Win Macau 4.7%. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up by 273 points. To the top 10 active stocks, XPeng gained $20.50. Tencent was up $2.80, while the tracker fund was up 26 cents. Meituan was up by $1.70, while Ping An Insurance was up by $1.30. The forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.67. 1,000 Japanese yen will get you 55 Hong Kong dollars, while the Australian dollar is at 5.29. And finally, in Europe, the London FTSE is currently up by nearly 16 points. Finally, the weather. The hot weather will continue with a few showers and isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 27 and 33 degrees. Expect more rain over the weekend. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Thanks for watching. Good night.